Hello, Celeigh Cardinal. Welcome to Creativity with Emilie. So happy to have you. So you are a multi-talented woman. You are a singer, songwriter, Juno Award winner, and you write sad songs but tries to make it fun.
That's right.
This is what your Instagram says.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, tell me about how you started writing songs.
I think the first song I ever wrote, I was 11 years old.
Oh.
Yeah, that was the first time I wrote a song. So I grew up Christian. I grew up in a church.
Okay.
So the first time I actually performed, I was 4 years old. I started singing in church very young. And when I was 11, I was just I have always loved singing. I was playing piano. And I just started writing songs about my feelings. Oh, wow. And then that's how it all stared.
Okay, so so how does a 11-year-old girl write about her feelings? What were you writing about?
So one of the songs that I wrote was actually about it was called, it's so embarrassing. It was called Pass the Bread Around the Table.
Oh my God, I love this. Wait.
Okay, so it was kind of a Christian song.
Okay.
And it was about sharing what we have with everybody around us.
Yes.
And I've always been a very sensitive, emotional person, hypervigilant in good and bad ways.
Yeah.
And have paid attention to people around me and felt when somebody needed something.
Right.
And so for me, the song was kind of about, taking care of each other.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah.
So it was about passing bread to each other.
Literally.
That's so cute. And I love bread. So, I think I would love this song. Can we hear this song somewhere?
God, it's so cheesy too. It was very pass the bread around the table, very Christian.
Oh, yes. Very traditional,
exactly.
Religious, very, I love that.
Yeah.
Okay, so how, growing up in a religious, environment, being, can you talk more about this? Because you are also Indigenous. Mm-hmm. You are a proud Indigenous artist. So how does that, how did it tie together? Yes.
Yeah, and that's something that's interesting to try to reconcile is Indigenous spirituality with growing up in religion. It happened because my father was actually placed in foster care from a young age. Yep. So he didn't grow up in his culture. Mm. And my mother is Scottish and she grew up Protestant. And they met at a Christian camp. And my father has never really had ties to his culture. And so we were just sort of grew up very white Christian because that's how he grew up in old farmhouses in small white communities. And so it took me sort of taking time to get to know the culture a little bit more, to understand all the difficulties in being religious and how religion impacted my father as a child, and also what being a part of a culture that didn't care about Indigenous people, how that impacted him and this internalized shame that he had. So it's a big, huge issue in our family that we've all sort of carried, and it's a big, huge issue across Canada or any sort of colonized countries. But it was something that I walked away from and felt more empowered once I did.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So your mom is Scottish and your dad is Indigenous. So how was it growing up with those two cultures?
Yeah, it was kind of just like growing up Scottish.
Yeah.
We went to the Highland Games every year. We ate a lot of fried food.
The best.
Yeah, we didn't celebrate the Cree side of my family at all. We didn't know anything about it. That's something that I came to when I was older.
Right.
It was actually more something that I felt like I had to hide or mediate. I constantly felt like I was overachieving so that people, because I look Indigenous, so people knew I was.
Right.
But I was trying to act white or make myself fit in. so that people wouldn't judge me based on that. Because it was a small town that I was raised in, and I was one of like 2 indigenous families in the school that I went to.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and I was always considered one of the good ones.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So when did you start really getting into music? Like 11 years old, you're writing songs. Like when did this become like your career, or how did you get into music?
So once I graduated high school, I started playing in a band. And then I was just immediately like in the world of music.
Okay.
And it was the thing that I wanted to do all the time. We played in bars, we played some smaller festivals, and I just continued to do it in every possible way that I could. At one point in like 2005, I think I was in 6 different bands.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Wait, how does that work?
Yeah, it was a little wild.
Okay.
I just sang with like 6 different groups.
Yeah.
And one of them was like a metal band.
Oh.
One of them was like an acoustic trio. It was just like, it was what I wanted to do. So I filled my life with it as much as I could.
Right. And you wanted to try different style of music? Like what was the goal? Just like trying different things?
I mean, I've always listened to so many different styles of music that like, it's really hard for me to choose what genre my music is right now even. People listen to it and they're like, I don't know what to call this. I don't know either.
Yeah.
It's like, it's such a big like, stew pot of like the many different influences that I have.
Yeah, probably a mix of all of the influences in your life because and it's really hard to pick one. Like for me, I'm French and I also come from Réunion Island, which is a tropical island near Madagascar. So I'm French, but I'm also from a tropical place. So I have all those influences. So yeah, I assume it's you can't really pick one thing over the other because it's really part of you, like all of the different cultures that you've grown with. So I want to go back to your indigenous heritage and influence. So you have won Songwriter of the Year and Indigenous Artist of the Year. So how was it first, like winning those awards? In your career.
Yeah, I mean, so I've been playing music since 1999, like on stages professionally. But in 2003, I had a son, and he's now 21 years old.
Oh my God.
And I've raised him on my own. Oh. And it was a pretty long road. Like, I didn't start playing music fully as my job, making a living off of it, until 2016. So I've been doing it for 8 years now. But prior to that, it was me working full-time, my son going to school, and then me taking like gigs on weekends and not really being able to go very far away, and trying to like do it all. It was very difficult, but it was what I wanted to do, and I knew it was what I needed to do. Once I won awards, it wasn't like, for me, it was really like this external validation of the choices that we made, and it was just nice for me and my family to be able to celebrate this accomplishment together.
Right.
I mean, it doesn't change whether or not I make a living off of it. It doesn't change whether or not I'm actually good or not. Like, it's really somebody's perspective on whether or not I'm good. But it really, like, it gave us something to celebrate.
Right.
And I think that's needed when you feel like you're making a lot of sacrifices, or like my son's making sacrifices of my time, and I'm sacrificing time with him.
Yes.
So it was just really nice, and it just felt like it was, I don't know, just like the cherry on top of everything.
Yeah. It's not everything. It doesn't change your life. I mean, maybe it will change your life a little bit, but I get the idea of it's just a nice acknowledgement of like the work that you've done and your passion and your music. So I love that. And you won Songwriter of the Year this year, I think, for a song called Light of the Moon.
Yes.
Yeah, can you talk about the inspiration behind this song?
Yeah, so this song was written as a tribute to like our musical idols, our musical family, our musical friends who have passed on. But I wrote it with two other songwriters, David and Joey Landreth. And we wrote it thinking about these people or these influences that we hear in the music that we create. So it's kind of sort of a blanket tribute song. But since writing it, I actually had a couple people pass away who were like musical family.
Right.
That now I think of every time I sing it. So it just continues to take on new meaning all the time. But it's a love song for people we've lost, but we carry them with us.
Oh, I love that. Can I ask who the artist who passed away recently?
So in 2020, my son's father died. And he was the first bass player that I ever played with. He was
really
in my first band in 1999. He was my bass player, and he was like my first great love.
Right.
And so he passed away in 2020, and then last year I had an aunt pass away, and actually "Light of the Moon" was her favorite song.
Oh,
yeah.
So I think it's beautiful.
Oh,
I love that. Yeah. It's the little things that kind of like still connect us to those people. And it doesn't have to be something very, I don't know, major, but a song is beautiful. Like you like hear the song when you're like driving, or you turn on the radio and suddenly it's like, all right,
sometimes when you write songs, it's like it's a stamp in time.
Yes.
And it can be stagnant. Like you get sick of singing this song because it's about this thing that happened like 10 years ago.
Right.
But like songs that continue to take on new meaning because they are connected with people or things that happen. Yeah. That's really nice because it makes you continue to enjoy performing the song as well.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So let's talk about this because I feel like because you write those sad songs and those beautiful, meaningful songs, you tap into really deep emotions with those songs. Do you feel like writing songs or singing is a type of healing for you?
Oh, 1,000,000%. I was going to say 1,000.
That's right?
That's
not enough.
Yeah. No, truly. A big part of like the last album that I released, it's called Boundless Possibilities.
Yes.
And it's a journey in grief for sure. It's heavily impacted by the loss of a couple of major people in my life. Yeah. And for me, I started writing the album in 2019 and I wasn't able to release it until this year. So I spent a lot of time working on it, and it was like I was working through the grief at the same time as writing these songs and recording these songs. Right. And I had to continue reliving it every time because one of the songs that I wrote, I sat down, I wrote it from front to back, and I recorded it once on my phone, and I was never able to sing it all the way through again. So the album recording is that thing I did on my phone. Because it's so heavy, right, and it was so sad to sing that I couldn't get through it. Yeah. And then I was able to perform it twice this year at 2 album release parties, so I can sing it now. Okay. So it's like part of that journey of moving through grief. And for me, it's music because it's like it's breathing, it's expression, it's letting things go, it's release. It is healing, and it's healing for me to perform it too. Right.
Let's talk about performing songs. You just said like you relieve the writing and the story behind the song. So how do you balance that? Like how do you find a balance between, singing that song, but also not reliving all the things attached to it?
I think that's something I'm currently working on. Okay. I think that's part of my process is like being able to emotionally detach from something in a healthy way. I think part of what makes me a great performer, and I just called myself a great performer, but whatever.
You are.
Is that I can stand on stage and be so vulnerable with whomever's in front of me and show them how I'm feeling or how I felt in that moment. And part of that is kind of going back to that place and feeling it again. So there has to be a level of healthy detachment from that.
Yes.
And I think that I'm actually learning mechanisms to do that through therapy. Because I've been in therapy for the last 4 years.
Yeah.
And I think I'm learning a bit of healthy detachment because of that. I don't know that I've successfully figured that out yet.
Right.
I think it's going to take time. But I guess I would say I'm on my way.
Yeah, I think it's an ongoing journey anyway. Like you don't just figure it out, right?
Yeah.
You know.
And then when something's raw,
Yes.
it's impossible to detach yourself from
Right.
it. You know? There's even songs that I can't sing without crying.
Yeah.
That are other people's songs. You
Yes.
know? So yeah.
Yeah. So how do you balance that emotional openness with protecting your own, persona well-being as an artist? Like, I think this is a fine line between the two.
I think for me, it's different once I step off the stage too. When I'm on the stage, I've been there since I was 4. Like I'm very comfortable in that place. That's when I'm my most extroverted version of myself.
Yes.
And it's also when I feel like I'm kind of a conduit of energy.
Right.
And I'm able to like healthily exchange energy with whomever's in front of me.
Yeah.
But when I step off the stage, I kind of like go into a bit of a cocoon.
Right.
And I usually have to immediately after go and like sign CDs and talk to people. So it usually takes me a minute once I get off the stage to just like breathe and to say, okay, I'm going to do this now again for like another 20 minutes. And then I'm going to go off stage. I'm going to hang out with my band and I get to like have a nice dinner or, a glass of wine. It's really about like being conscious of what's happening.
Yes.
Because before I think I used to do a lot of like drinking my social anxiety away.
Right.
Just to be like, okay, I'm calm now. But now I just have to like make the choice, recognize what I'm doing, and then like step into it.
Yeah. I feel like that with photo shoots because when I work with clients and people, I have to put on, I'm not that I'm faking, but I'm put on the persona of the, I am in charge, I'm the photographer, I take their portraits, I direct them, I'm a creative director. So I feel the same, I'm really on and it's like intentional. And then people are like, oh, how do you do this? And I'm like, you know what? I just get into the vibe and I take their portraits, I give them directions, and then when it's done, I sit down on my phone for like 30 minutes to scroll because it's like I give all of my energy, and this idea of like also be a conduit of like being like very present in the moment with that person to just be able to capture the essence. Like for you, it's like being able to really connect with your audience, and I think that's like it's a similar experience. So I really love that you talking about this.
Well, it's also interesting because you like being the person in charge. You have to be comfortable, or else everyone around you is going to be uncomfortable. If I stood on stage and was like uncomfortable with myself in any way, everybody would be like, what is going on and why am I here? Why did I pay for this?
Yes.
Like if I'm in any way insecure or weird.
Yeah.
So like you do really have to show up. You have to make everybody comfortable.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
I realized that when I was shooting weddings and I was with the brides and the bridesmaids and all the family and everyone was so stressed and I was like, oh, I can't be another stressed person. So I was the most chill person in the room because then I would see people kind of like the bride would relax because I would like, I got this, don't worry. So you're right, this idea of like, even in the studio with clients who are stressed, like I'm not stressing because they need to see this like confidence to relax and to be like, okay, no, she got this. And I feel your presence, and you are a very powerful performer. Like your presence is just like, it's so potent. And so I feel like people really love this and they just like get carried away with like your songs because it's like, oh, this is, she's here. She's really in the moment. So,
and I've actually been thinking about this recently, how like that version of myself, I want to incorporate more of that in my like day-to-day life. Like that kind of like that confidence.
Right.
I wish that I carried that with me wherever I went without it being like I'm on.
Right.
Like this is just like I'm in my space always, I'm present always.
Right.
It's hard to do, But like I want to incorporate more of like Celeigh Cardinal, the artist,
Yes.
into like Celeigh Cardinal,
Yeah.
the woman.
Yeah, like at the grocery store.
Exactly. Exactly.
When you, or at the restaurant when you have to, I don't know, order.
Send back some food.
Exactly. Yeah. Like you're like, I don't really like this, so I'm going to. Yeah.
Yeah.
That makes sense. I want to talk about overcoming challenges in your career because you are a woman, you are an Indigenous artist. So, did you find like you really had to fight for your place in the music industry? And we know that the music industry is difficult sometimes. So,
I mean, I'm a single mom. I'm from Northern Alberta.
Yeah.
I'm Native. Like, there was no place for me. I didn't belong anywhere, especially back in the early 2000s. What's happening now in music, there's significantly more Indigenous artists that are being bolstered by the community, and that's amazing. And, like, it makes me so happy for this next generation coming up. But, like, I struggled to find places that would hire me where it wasn't, like, a token hire, where they weren't, like, okay, we have our one Indigenous artist, and that still happens. But like when I was booking myself back in the early 2000s, people would book me, and then they would be surprised when I showed up with like a classical guitar and wanted to sing sad girl songs. They were expecting me to like have a hand drum and sing something traditional to open up their, event.
yeah.
And that was really awkward for a lot of years.
Yeah.
But also, I never saw anybody who looked like me because I'm not a small, marketable body. I'm not blonde. I'm not white.
Yeah.
I didn't see myself in media at all. Like, growing up in the early 2000s, we're just starting to see more people of size. We're starting to see more people of color.
Yeah.
Like, representation is happening, and it's an amazing thing, but did that ever really mess with my self-esteem and my self-worth when I was growing up, thinking that like I wasn't good enough the way I was, and that I needed to change myself to try to fit in or belong or be seen.
Yes.
And I didn't really embrace my uniqueness for a really long time.
Right.
So the issue of self-worth impacts everything that you do, and it impacted my life in so many different ways. And of course, it's part of my journey now.
Yes.
But like, it was a huge struggle. It was not easy. I had a long road to get to where I am.
Yeah, and then I think recently this year you were asked to curate a playlist for Spotify Canada.
Yeah.
The Indigenous playlist, and then you had this billboard on Toronto.
I know.
How was this? Because from struggling to find your place as an Indigenous artist and a woman, and suddenly you are on a billboard in Toronto. Tell me about this.
I mean, the weird thing is that I've always known that music was the thing that I was supposed to do.
Yeah.
I've always known this. It's always felt like my calling. And so I knew this was the one thing that I could believe in myself for.
Right.
And I was in Toronto, May of this year, and I was with my keyboard player, and I said to him, we stood in Yonge and Dundas Square.
Yeah.
And I said, that billboard, I'm going to be on that billboard. And like 3 months later, I was on the billboard. And it's just, there's this weird confidence when you feel like you're on the path that you're supposed to be on.
Right.
Like, I've always known music is the way for
Yeah.
me. It's the way. It's the only thing I can do. Everything else makes me miserable. Like, I've had some real shitty jobs, and everything else makes me miserable.
Right.
And so that it's a truly amazing thing to believe in something and to know it's going to happen and to watch it happen. Yeah. Like, part of me wasn't shocked, but part of me was like, this younger version of me was in awe.
Right.
Yes. And so it was incredible.
Yeah, that was amazing. I remember seeing the post on Instagram, and I was like, oh my God, this is fantastic. And also that playlist is great. Yeah. And how do you curate a playlist like that? Like, what is your inspiration?
For me, it was really, so I remember the first time that I heard one of my songs on the radio. Yeah. And I remember that feeling of being like, I'm doing the thing. And somebody cares about what I'm doing. They're playing my music. And so for me, I've had a couple of radio shows. Yeah. It's always super important that I dig and I find artists who have been doing it for a long time, or like don't have a lot of funding, or their parents, or their up and emerging artists. And so it was really important that I like chose people that I thought needed to be heard, that hadn't really had that kind of platform yet.
Yeah.
So that's kind of like one of my major prerequisites. Yes. The other is that I like what they're doing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Any artists that you love currently that we need to listen to?
Hayley Wallace is an artist who's based out of BC, West Coast, and she's got this incredible, like she's got kind of a low jazzy voice. Oh, she's amazing. There's actually a lot of artists. Tia Wood is like blowing up in North America right now.
Awesome.
She released an album earlier this year, and like she's so R&B and just like she actually is really, she's inspiring me.
Oh. Yeah. Do you love R&B? I love R&B.
I mean, I love being able to like sing and and lay back and like
Yeah. I'm a 90s kid, so R&B is, sometimes I need to listen to a good 90s R&B playlist.
Yeah.
And I'm happy. So
I want to do everything. That's my problem. Is like I want to do all the music.
Yeah. I guess I can't really ask you about one specific genre of music that you love. It's hard to pick.
Can I tell you, so some of my favorite bands or musicians are Fiona Apple.
Oh, Fiona Apple.
I love Fiona Apple. Yes. I like know all the words to all of her songs.
Yeah.
Rufus Wainwright.
Okay.
The Beastie Boys.
The Beastie Boys.
I also love the Red Hot Chili Peppers.
Yeah.
I was a big fan of No Doubt. I love the band, which was like popular. I love Tom Petty. I love Lucinda Williams. I just feel like Rage Against the Machine.
Yeah.
And like even, lots of grunge stuff is in there.
Oh yeah, because you were in a metal band, so.
Yeah, and that was a little wild. I definitely didn't sing very metal, but it was fun.
Yeah.
But so like, the influences are all over the map.
Yeah. I think we are the same age. You were like raised in the 90s, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know. I feel like, not to like, give myself too much credit, but I feel like we love so many different genres of music because we used. I don't know. It's very. I love same. I love opera. I love music. Classic music. I love 90s. I love R&B. I love rock. I love pop. I love Britney Spears. I love. It's
Backstreet Boys.
Backstreet Boys. So it's really hard to pick like one. One genre of music that I'm like, this is my thing, and I love it. I'm like, no, I love this person. I love this person. So I guess it also depends on the person, like the artist. I love Celine Dion. I love Mariah Carey, because I remember 90s Mariah is like my favorite type of music. So okay, I want to talk about social media.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. You are quite active on Instagram. Yeah, but you also call yourself an introvert. So how do you? And you posted the most adorable video of you preparing your starting videos. So you're like the before the live starts, or like the video starts, and it's like those little awkward moments.
Yeah.
So, but you're still very active on social media, and you put yourself out there. Like, how do you push yourself to do this?
Yeah, it's, I don't love how time consuming it is for me.
Yeah.
It's very time consuming for me to make a video. I'm often like, well, I don't have any ideas. And I like stress about it. And then one day it'll just hit me and I'll have a great idea for something. And then I do that thing. Right. But how often it sits sort of in the back of my mind, I don't like that.
Yes.
I'd like that to stop.
Yeah.
I want to be a little bit more like intentionally active and not just sitting and scrolling.
Yeah.
People tell me that I need to do my research and watch stuff so that I see what's trending. And I'm kind of like, I don't want to do that.
Right.
But I think I think that particular video, a lot of people saw themselves in that.
Yeah.
When you're just like, okay, I'm doing this thing. and the video is already going.
Yes.
And it catches you just like,
like
all right, here we go.
Yeah.
Hi,
Yes.
Yeah. So I think capturing those moments or like sharing moments of like your disdain for social media or your existential crisis that you feel while you're doing it, those things people can see themselves in, and that's the kind of stuff that...
And you are very genuine and authentic on social media, which I think people really appreciate. But again, it's this idea also to like not put on a show, but like, okay, I'm doing this. I'm like, doing the Instagram live. I'm filming the video, like putting yourself out there. So I think you're doing a great job. Like I love seeing your posts all the time. And also this the balance between all the fun stuff, but also the very vulnerable, things, posts that you share. So I really appreciate that too. So I just wanted to tell you that you are doing a great job.
When I was 40, that's when I went on antidepressants for the first time. And I remember talking about that journey on Instagram. And I got a lot of messages from people talking about how they've been dealing with depression for a really long time and they never really considered going on medication. And I just think that like when you share those kinds of things, if it has any sort of impact on somebody's life in that way, and it like, even though we say, we're pulling back the veil and talking about mental illness, it's still very uncomfortable to talk about it. It's still like very almost shameful or embarrassing to say, I'm on medication for depression and I have anxiety, and I think it is still brave, anybody who does that, and I think the impact that it has is worth it.
How was this journey of like therapy and like being on medication and how did that impact like your like writing, for example, or like performance? Did you see any difference?
I think the interesting thing about like going on antidepressants is it absolutely had to happen because the stuff that I was dealing with directly in 2020 was so intense that I wasn't functioning well.
Right.
And I've lowered my dose of antidepressants, and I'm in therapy that I think is like really addressing a lot of trauma and a lot of the stuff that I needed to medicate. So for me, it might not be I'm on antidepressants for the rest of my life. It might be something that's just like helping me through this time. But initially, I think I did experience a bit of numbness. And that kind of made it difficult to write.
Right.
It made it difficult to get into that sort of creative space. But as I've been going through this journey, and it's been 4 years since, that's changing. Right. And I feel myself like coming into a different space where I'm able to sort of get into that creative headspace again. I'm feeling a bit more free. I'm feeling a bit more, I don't know, just like I'm ready to share again.
Yes, I love that. So how do you get to that creative space? Like when you decide to write a song, do you just like sit down at your desk and you like pen and paper? I don't know, like what does it look like for you?
Like some people they have a routine and they get themselves into that space.
Yes.
I get struck by lightning. Like I'm just like driving and I'm like, oh my God, that's something. And then I like record it onto my phone.
Right.
Or I'll be washing dishes. It's often when I'm doing things where I'm sort of on autopilot where I get ideas. Yeah. Because like my brain is sort of distracted. Yeah. And it frees up space for like something creative to come to me. Yeah. And often I'll get ideas, like there's been many times where I get like an entire song in a setting. Yeah. But other times I'll just get little snippets of things that I have to go back and visit later once I have time, and I sort of make time to sort of revisit those ideas. Right.
Yeah. There is something about being in the shower, doing dishes, apparently something with the water that is I don't know how that works. I'm not that it is bringing the creativity. So that makes sense that you're like, because your brain is more free, I guess, or focus. I'm not sure how that works. So that makes sense that, this is when your creativity comes. So. For me, I keep I use my phone a lot for like writing things, and sometimes I just write a word but then I don't, and then I forgot why I wrote
Yeah.
this.
I know that feeling.
So I guess you have to come back to like your notes or like what you record. I assume you record a lot of like just singing on your phone. Yeah. And then you kind of like go to the studio, or where do you create the song and make the final product?
So something I've been doing for the last couple of years is my keyboard player and he's my co-writer, and we'll rent a cabin for a week, and we take everything we need to record stuff and like a lot of cocktail stuff, and we usually make sure there's a hot tub at the cabin, and we spend a week there, and we just like write the whole time. And so I just have to have like a bunch of stuff ready to go. And we have this designated time, and we know that we're going into this space, and this is what we're doing. And that's how I access all of that and put it all together.
So it seems very intentional and very, I have my material, I know I have stuff, and then I go into this like almost like a vortex of creation. Oh, I love this. And then you are able to just like write an album or a few songs.
We've done many different things. We've done one song for the entire week, and we've done like 6-7 songs. It just depends on where we're both at. And I think we're both just really like excited about the time to spend just doing music, because when we're home, we're worried about everything else.
Absolutely.
So being in that space is just this really nice time for both of us.
I love that. Okay, we're going to end this interview with 3 questions from the Proust questionnaire.
Okay.
Marcel Proust is my fellow French author.
Okay.
So first question, what is your idea of perfect happiness?
Oh my God.
I'm so sorry.
At least you started with an easy question,
right?
So that's good. For me, it's always just been being able to make a living off of playing music, and having a dog, and spending my time with my son, and at some point being on a beach. That's it.
Perfect.
I just want to make music and live.
I love that. Okay, second question, which living person do you most admire?
Oh,
those questions are heavy.
God. I'm trying to think of a person in particular, but I don't know that I can name it, but I believe it's anybody who has created a life that they enjoy, has a healthy work-life balance, and is also of service to their community. Which is who I want to be.
I love that. That's beautiful. Okay, last question. What is your most treasured possession?
Oh, God. I don't know, because I don't really... Everything I have is sort of a thing.
Right.
I don't think I have anything that... I mean, I have my dog's ashes. Maybe that's it. That's probably it. My dog Daisy.
So sweet. I love that. Okay, where do people can find you online? Where can they follow you? And what is your next project or any performance are you doing? Tell us everything.
So you can find me everywhere online. You just have to know how to spell my name. Because it's Celeigh, Celeigh Cardinal. And I have like one Christmas show in December, and then Brennan and I are actually going to a cabin for a week, and we're going to try to write some Christmas songs.
Christmas songs.
We'll see. Maybe I'll have a Christmas album next year. And then in January, I'm headed to the UK to do a couple of showcases, and that's sort of amazing. My next big thing.
Okay, amazing. Well, thank you so much for coming to the podcast, and it was lovely talking to you as always.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.